Euro 2016 gets underway this Friday at the Stade de France St Denis as France take on Romania in Group A. Joining me here is Duncan Hare, Golf News Deputy Sports Editor, and sports reporter Ashley Hammond. Okay guys, so the first thing I think we need to talk about is the fact that the tournament has increased from 16 teams to 24. I mean, how do you guys see that?
I think it's a good thing. Obviously I wish Scotland would have qualified, but I think it's a good thing that nations who perhaps would not have qualified for Euros in the past when it was 8 teams even, and going back to the 90s, and obviously 16 teams recently, I think it's good that they got the opportunity. It increases the visibility of the tournament, also increases the popularity in terms of nations, their fans will obviously watch it as well.
I take the opposite view in that I think you should have separated the wheat from the chaff earlier in qualifying. When it gets to a final stage, you really want to see the best of the best, and it really needs to be a quick 2-week tournament.
Okay, so who do you think are going to be the big players over the next few weeks? Who do we need to be keeping our eyes on?
Germany, Spain, France is the host nation. If we're talking about outside bet, I strongly fancy Belgium. I think they've got a very, very strong squad. You look at their 23 and there's not a weak player at every position. They look good.
They had a great team go into the last World Cup in 2014 and they only made the quarterfinals and it wasn't particularly memorable. The big thing about Belgium, they should be looking on paper, they should be one of the best teams in Europe.
Duncan, you spoke about Germany briefly there.
Yeah.
I mean, since they won the World Cup back in 2014, things have been on a bit of a downward slide. I mean, they've lost 3 friendlies. They lost to Ireland in their qualifying stages. They've got Royce currently sidelined. He's not going to be making an appearance, and they're plagued with injuries. I mean, is that going to harm their chances, or do you think Joachim Low has got enough in his arsenal to steer them towards at least the latter stages?
You look at the German squad, and yes, it's starting to age a little bit in some positions, Schweinsteiger, for example. But some of the younger players are bringing through. I really fancy the guy Kimmich at Bayern Munich. I think he'd be a useful addition to the squad. The area I think to watch for Germany is the fact that they still only probably have one centre forward, but it's the players in behind them that can be so useful, particularly obviously Thomas Muller. I do fancy the Germans.
I agree, I fancy the Germans too. I don't necessarily think it's too big a deal in qualifying if they haven't had a great run in qualifying or they haven't had too many good results in friendlies recently. I don't think that really matters. I think if you look at the history of German football in major tournaments, they've always been there or thereabouts.
I want to talk quickly about France, the hosts. They have scored 3 goals in each of their last 4 matches. I mean, that's quite impressive for a team that hasn't had to go through the qualifying stage like everyone else. Are they going to be able to carry that form into the tournament, or do you think maybe the moment will get to them?
I think even as hosts, the pressure's going to be upon them. I think France are definitely one of the sides to watch. Again, they've got that advantage, and they've got key players in all the spines of the team, from goalkeeper to centre half to midfield to up front as well.
Obviously, as the host, that gives you a major advantage, home support, and you get a bit of momentum behind you. But it could also, obviously, play on their minds a bit and be a lot of pressure. The other thing about France is they always self-implode, don't they? They always tend to. It doesn't matter how good the team are. There's always a certain attitude, there's always a dilemma with France.
How are they going to approach their opening game against Romania? I mean, are they going to be buoyed? Do you think they'll suffer the stage fright? How are they going to approach that match?
Well, opening games tend to be a bit of a sort of anti-climax, don't they? They always tend to be a bit tight. Probably 1-0 win to France, I can see.
Hopefully they don't go there with Senegal in 2002. Remember, that was
one of the biggest shocks
of all time.
Yeah. You talk about anti-climaxes, so of course that inevitably leads us on to the question of England, who obviously faced off Russia on Saturday. We've got the Scotsman laughing already.
Here we go.
Exactly. So I think the big question is, on English lips, what is Roy Hodgson going to do with Wayne Rooney?
Hopefully not play him and keep him on the bench. That would be my immediate reaction, but I've got a feeling that he'll probably play him just behind the front man.
Yeah, I mean, what he did against Portugal was supposedly playing behind the front men in terms of Kane and Vardy, and yet what happened was that Rooney was playing as a de facto centre forward and Kane and Vardy were pushed right out wide. I don't think Hodgson actually knows what his best 11 is and how to play them. I really don't.
What I'd like him to do is play 2 up front, but I just don't think he'll do that. The 2 most exciting players, you look at Barkley from the last World Cup, arguably the biggest positive coming out of that World Cup. This season he's had a bad season. And also John Stones at Everton, he's had a bad season. John Stones is like your your informed defender. Even Jose Mourinho wants him. There's been talk about him at the beginning of the season. Maybe that distracted him. I don't know.
Stones could be first choice for England when he's not even been first choice for Everton this season. There was a huge
true.
chunk of the season towards the end of the season where Stones wasn't even getting a game. And when he did, it was riddled with errors. I was thinking about the game against Watford where, kick the ball out of play. If you're not playing well, do the simple things, and yet he continues to play from the back. Don't get me wrong, he is a fantastic prospect, but at the moment he's just a prospect, and there's times when he's really letting his game get away from him.
Okay, let's talk quickly about the underdogs. Who do we think are going to be causing the biggest surprises? I mean, we've got the likes of Northern Ireland and Wales. Between them have only been in 4 international competitions since 1958. We've got the likes of Iceland, Albania, Hungary. Who do we think might be causing some upsets?
I'm not sure if any of them will actually. I think you might have to look a little bit wider to get someone that could really be a proper dark horse than the names that I mentioned.
I quite fancy Iceland in terms of a romantic football story. That the population of 330,000 people. They're the smallest nation on earth to have qualified to a major tournament. I'm not saying that they're going to qualify from the group or go on and get to the semis or anything like that, but they're certainly one to watch in terms of how big a story this is. And I think every developing football nation, or even developed football nations, they should be looking at Iceland to see how they've achieved this, because this is remarkable what they've done.
Okay, so come off the fence, go on record. Who do we think is going to be lifting the trophy in 4 weeks' time?
You go first.
Thanks for that, Martin.
Scotland aren't in it, so
No, Scotland,
that.
absolutely.
Go on.
Belgium.
I'll go England.
Euro 2016 gets underway this Friday as France take on Romania in Group A's opening match at the Stade de France. You can catch all the latest news, fixtures and results on golfnews.com. Don't forget to join us on Twitter at Golf News Sport using the hashtag Euro 2016.